Since its inception in 1987, the Final Fantasy series has captivated gamers worldwide with its innovative gameplay, immersive storytelling, and unforgettable characters. Final Fantasy series creator Hironobu Sakaguchi went on to make Final Fantasy after seeing the success of Dragon Quest in Japan. The name Final Fantasy was chosen because Sakaguchi said he would quit the game industry if the game was not successful, and also Squaresoft, the developer of the game and the company who Sakaguchi worked for, was under a threat of financial bankruptcy if the game failed. Final Fantasy eventually released, and thankfully for Sakaguchi, the game was a massive success. It turned around Square's financial situation, and not only that, but as the series went on, with games like Final Fantasy VII, it went on to become one of the most recognized RPG game series in the entire world. With each new installment in Final Fantasy, fans eagerly anticipated the next chapter in this beloved franchise. However, as time passes, it is becoming increasingly evident that the Final Fantasy series is experiencing a downfall. This video will explore different key aspects contributing to the decline of this game series, such as the declining storytelling and character development, and also abandoning what made Final Fantasy the series it is. First, let's talk about the storytelling and the rogues of Final Fantasy and the decline of that. Gone are the days when each new installment brought forth a sense of anticipation and wonder as players eagerly awaited what unique rogues and characters would be unveiled before them. Instead, they are met with predictable storylines that fail to captivate or surprise. The lackluster plots leave players feeling unsatisfied as if they have been cheated out of the immersive experiences they once cherished in earlier Final Fantasy games. A lot of modern Final Fantasy characters feel very unoriginal. It is disheartening to witness such stagnation in character development when past entries in the series showcase diverse and multifaceted individuals who resonated with players on a deeper level. Final Fantasy XVI has strayed far away from this by abandoning the idea of a party. In previous Final Fantasy games, you had a party of different characters, each with their own backstory to learn more about, who were all different from each other and each had their own strengths and weaknesses and their own unique personalities. In Final Fantasy XVI, you play the main character Clive for most of the game, and you really don't get many other party members aside from an occasional guest party member. This is abandoning the party idea found in previous Final Fantasy games and is making for less character variety and less character development in these game stories because you are traveling with fewer characters at once. What is also disheartening is the decline in character development within Final Fantasy games. Once revered for their multi-dimensional protagonists who embarked on transformative journeys throughout each installment, recent titles have fallen victim to creating bland archetypes lacking any significant growth or personal evolution. Gone are the days when players could invest themselves fully in a character's emotional arc, marveling at their triumphs and empathizing with their struggles. Instead, we are left with hollow vessels devoid of personality or substance. This declining storytelling and character development has had tangible consequences on player engagement and immersion within Final Fantasy games. Without compelling narratives or well-rounded characters to anchor them to the game world, the lackluster stories fail to ignite our imagination. Next up, let's get into Square abandoning what Final Fantasy was all about and chasing trends for profit instead of making games that cater to the long, loyal fan base that has been with Final Fantasy and has been buying the games and supporting the games for years and years. One of the most disheartening aspects of the downfall of the Final Fantasy series is the blatant neglect of its loyal fan base in favor of profit. It is truly perplexing to witness how a franchise that once prided itself on innovation and storytelling has now succumbed to prioritizing financial gain over artistic integrity. Bursting onto the scene with groundbreaking titles like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy X, these games captivated players with their immersive rules and intricate narratives. However, as time went on, it became evident that Square Enix, the company behind the series, had lost touch with what made these games so beloved in the first place. Instead of focusing on creating compelling stories and memorable characters and great turn-based combat systems, Square Enix seemed more interested in churning out uninspired sequels and spin-offs solely for profit. The once rich and diverse world of Final Fantasy games was reduced to a mere cash cow, milked dry by endless remakes and re-releases that offered little substance or originality. This neglectful approach not only alienated longtime fans, but also failed to attract new ones who were seeking fresh experiences within the franchise. Moreover, Square Enix's decision to shift towards a more action-oriented gameplay style further contributed to the downfall of Final Fantasy. While some experimentation is commendable in any creative endeavor, abandoning turn-based combat, a staple feature loved by many fans, was an unfortunate choice that left players feeling disconnected from their favorite game series. The transition to real-time battles may have appealed to a broader audience initially, but ultimately compromised the strategic depth that had characterized earlier installments with the turn-based combat systems. For over 10 mainline games of the series, every game had turn-based combat. They did different changes to the combat system, but it was always turn-based at the core, and it was something that players enjoyed and came to expect from the series. With Final Fantasy XV, they abandoned the turn-based combat and changed it to action RPG. They strayed further and further away from the combat that was turn-based in the older Final Fantasy games, and that came with the major consequences of alienating longtime fans of the series, including myself. The reality is, from Final Fantasy I all the way to Final Fantasy XIII, that is over 10 mainline games. We can't count 11 because 11 is an MMO, but over 10 mainline Final Fantasy games, each one having a turn-based combat system. Turn-based combat is what Final Fantasy was known for. It is what the series was built on. And making Final Fantasy games not turn-based makes it not Final Fantasy anymore. If you like action RPGs, that is totally cool. I also like action RPG games a lot. I like game series like the Tales of series, the Star Ocean series, Dark Souls. Those games are all action RPG type of games. But the reality about Final Fantasy is that it was never an action RPG series. It was a turn-based one for over 20 years. And so to change it to action RPG is something that is completely different from what the series was. It is not what Final Fantasy is, and that is abandoning the turn-based combat that make Final Fantasy what it is. And so I think the Final Fantasy series is in free fall right now. It is going downhill in terms of quality. For me, the real big drop in quality started around Final Fantasy XIII, and I think the series has been going very downhill since around Final Fantasy XIII. Final Fantasy XV, meanwhile, was complete garbage. It had horrible gameplay, horrible story, it was rushed. The only really good thing I could say about FF15 was that the music was really good in the game and the graphics were good as well. It was incredibly disappointing even when judged as a game on its own. It was massively rushed and it was terrible. And I don't see the series getting any better with Final Fantasy XVI. The demo did not convince me to pre-order the game. It has been a little while since Final Fantasy XVI is released, and I still have no plans to buy that game. It just does not appeal to me at all. It does not look like a Final Fantasy game. It does not seem to play like a Final Fantasy game. It does not give me any hope for the future of the Final Fantasy series. I have heard a lot of very disappointing things from reviews about it. Ultimately, this is my video about why Final Fantasy has gone downhill and why I'm no longer a fan of modern Final Fantasy. I will always enjoy the older games of the series that I liked a lot, but as far as modern Final Fantasy goes, I want nothing to do with it. If you like the modern Final Fantasy games, that's cool. I respectfully disagree with them being good games. I don't think they're good games at all. But again, if you like it, that's cool. Nothing against you. Now, overall, that's my thoughts on modern Final Fantasy. Let me know if you agree or disagree. As always, keep it civil in the comments. Thank you all very much. Make sure to subscribe for more RPG content here on the channel, more reviews, more talking videos like this one, ranking videos, all that type of stuff. As always, I really greatly appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you all very much. Have a good one, everybody.